Hello and welcome to the third episode of Raptors Pilgrimage. My name is Alda Zaroon, and I still don't quite yet have a proper intro. But we'll deal with that as we go. Today's episode is dedicated to learning how to read Raptor. So I write in cursive, but I'll do these out properly in printing so that you can see how it's written out in printing as well. But I'll have to do that in a second. So to get you introduced, so you'll notice if you've watched the last three episodes, or you just what am I trying to say? If you've just found the channel now, you'll notice I do my title cards in this weird script that probably looks like gibberish. And the reason I do that is because it's my own invention. And I mean, this is my own vlog, so I want to express myself entirely in my own way, and certainly at some point I'll start using my own words that I've come up with that mean things. Right now I only have a few, and so out of context they don't really make sense, but certainly I do want to start working them into my vlogs. Mostly they'll be done in English though, because English is my native language, and it's the one I think and speak mostly in. But I like the challenge of coming up with my own language. So but before okay, so this is sort of the history of Raptor. So I tried learning French, I tried learning Esperanto, and I still want to learn those languages. But in trying to learn those languages, I realized that I find it much easier to understand something that I've come up with. Because it's like my own creation. It's like a child of mine, and I'm not going to forget a child of mine. So things that I create, I tend to remember better. And a good example of that is like, what do you call them? Mnemonic devices for like learning chemistry. I come up with some mnemonic devices to help me remember theory. And I remember them really well. And so in that same essence, I wanted to come up with my own language that I could express myself with more deeply and fluently. Now, will I ever be able to speak that language better than I can speak English? Who knows? But it's a challenge, and that's sort of, I set myself a lot of these challenges in life. So, but my first challenge was coming up with, I wanted my language to be written in a completely phonetic way. I didn't want to have sort of the same drawbacks as English, where English isn't phonetic, and a lot of words have silent letters, and a lot of words, they're just not written the same way that they sound. And so it's hard to learn English because of that. And so I wanted a language that was more straightforward, that was written the same way that it sounds. And so you need a completely phonetic language for that. And so I started researching all the different sounds that we use for English. And then once I came up with a list, I needed a symbol for each sound. So I would have one letter for each sound. And then while I was doing research, I realized that some sounds are actually a combination of two other sounds. So there were core sounds, there are elemental sounds, and then there are sounds that we get by adding them together. And I'll get into that a little bit as we kind of go through this introduction, I should say, an introduction to Raptor. I actually have a website, and I want to put Raptor on the website. And so quickly, so that you know, this here is the name. This is the title of the video. So this says Learning Raptor, or Raptor in English. And this letter Q, as you would know it in English, is actually the letter R. R. It's a throat trill, kind of like Chewbacca, or the French R. So if you know French, then you'll know how to pronounce that R. If you know Chewbacca, that'll also help you to get that R sound out of your throat. This letter here, this sort of strange alien-looking letter, is a backwards R. You might know it from the Cyrillic alphabet in their cursive. That's where I took it from. And it's a backward R, and it's the tongue trill, the roll up your rim to win, as Canadians would know. It's the rolling R off the tongue. And I think they use it in Spanish as well. And so I like both of those sounds, and they're not really used all that often in English. And so I wanted to prominently use them in my language. And so I thought, why not use them right in the name of the language itself, and really make them prominent and pronounced. So that's what I did, and that's why this is the spelling of the language Raptor. And I think it sounds really, really nice and pretty. Anyways, so introducing you to the 10 vowels and 27 consonants. So, I mean, think about that for a second, what I've just said. Language, there are 26 letters, period. That's it, 26 letters, period. In Raptor, there are 27 consonants alone. And then there are 10 vowels. But these are just the core sounds. Then when you combine either two vowels or some consonants together, you get more sounds out of that. And so I'll start with the vowels, because I think vowels are the important, like every word has vowels. And that's what I love about Raptor, is that every word has vowels. And so I wanted when I went through a lot of different symbols in coming up with the way that Raptor looked as a language, and I really wanted it to look different from English but similar. I mean, that's why most of my letters, I'm drawing them from the English alphabet and reappropriating them for my own purposes. But with the vowels, I had to start completely from scratch. I mean, but I wanted them to be unique and unified, so that something, when you saw a vowel, you knew that's what it was. So this is what I came up with. These are the 10 vowels, and you'll notice you have 5 states. I don't know if that's what you call them. And then you have 5, what's the word? Advancements? No, that's not the word. 5 not improvements. Modifications. That's what it was. That's 5 modified states. So this is sort of like an H with a tail. This is like a B with an up and a tail. This is a C with a head and a tail. This is an O with a head and a tail. And this is a K with a tail, like a regular K with just a tail. And then this is each of those that begins with an O. And yeah, and so these are the 10 vowels. So starting from here, we have A as in cat. We have O as in boat. We have I as in hit, H-I-T, hit. We have oo as in, what's an oo? Move, M-O-V-E, the O in move. We have as in, or no, sorry, this is E as in eat, eat. And then down here we have as in up. We have awe as in awesome or awful. Then we have, sorry, looking at them backwards is making it hard to see. We have a as in Nagasaki, Nagasaki. And then this is as in wood, as in wood. And then this is as in kept, kept. The E in kept. So those are the 10 core vowel sounds. And that's how they're written. And then we have sort of modified vowel sounds. And these are the ones that I can think of right now. And I'll just write them out in sort of order. Is that all of them? Okay, these are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. But these three are the modified vowel sounds. And this is ow, as in a, w, w, ow. This is oi, as in oy, oy, oi. And this is I, as in I, like Nagasaki, I. And that's how you would say I. That's how you spell, actually. That's how you say, like, you know, I went to the store. That would be I. And I know there's another one. I think there's more. I just can't think of them. So maybe I'll come back to that. But those are, so really you have more vowel sounds. Sorry, I hate pauses, but I'm just trying to think. It's really bugging me. I'm like, I know there's a couple more. I just can't think of them right now. I mostly, because when I'm spelling words phonetically, they just kind of come to me. Like when you get into the swing of spelling words phonetically, you don't even notice how you're spelling. Like they just sort of flow. Like you just sort of use the letters as you hear them. And it becomes very, very easy and quick to write them, at least for me. So now this is the hurdle. This is the big time. Now I've actually got these out of order, and I wish I had my because I have the alphabet sort of in an order, but I've got it here out of order. So you're going to be learning it out of order. Or maybe I should put it back in order. Maybe I'll do that real quick. Maybe I'll just sort of talk to you, and put it in order. And this is barring, like I haven't even shown you capital letters. So that's something I need to do as well. Okay. We have b, p, d, t, f, v, s, z, sh, j, k, g, ch, j, th, the, r, 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 h, and I think that's it. And then M, N, L, H, Y, W, no. Okay, so now I've got them back in order. When I was doing it, I usually practice this, so I apologize for that dip. So these are the consonants, and there's a lot of them. There's basically a full alphabet alone. So there's 37 letters altogether. But I'll be honest, it's not that hard to learn. So starting from here, we have B, you know, the typical B. And so I've just used the same B. Then we have P, you know, so that's B as in boy. This is P as in people, or more P. This is a D as in D. I'm going to eventually give actual names to each of these letters. So I'm not just using the standard English words. And I mean like full names. I want to give like full names, so it's not just the sound it makes, but so we've got B, P, D, T as in toe or two, F as in favorite or far, V as in very or vicious, S as in save or scandalous. We have Z as in pizza or zebra. We have Sh, and so this is where you'll notice that Sh in English is normally SH, but I consider that to be a sound, a single sound, and so I want one letter. So this is the English letter U, for U as in up, but I've reappropriated it here for the sound sh. And this here is sort of a W into a Y, and that's for je, as in pleasure, pleasure, or measure, or fusion. So we've got sh as in shopping or shut up, and then it's like fusion. Then we have ka, which is like keep or chalk, the k sound, you know, that you either get with a K in English or a C, and that's our. And then we have the G, or the g sound, as in like go or golf. Then down here on the right again, in our second row, we have the English I, but in Raptor, it's the letter ch, as in like charge or beach. That's the ch. So normally in English, that's a ch, but we've used the letter I. And then we have j, as in just or George. It's the j sound. Or thistle, the th sound, with the letter A. And then we have the English letter E, but in Raptor, again, it's the, as in like, again, the, or what's another the? This. There's the word this. It's the vibrating th sound. It's th. And then we have R, which is just your typical R. It's a r. It's a r sound, and just the plain R. So it's a r. And then here again, what I mentioned earlier, we have the backwards R, which is r. It's the tongue trill, r, with the tongue. And then this is Q, the English Q. But in Raptor, it's r, r. It's the back of the throat. It's a r, the throat trill. And then here we have ch. So this is sort of that like Hanukkah. It's a I don't really know. It's like a hard H. It's a ch, and it's more of like a fricative, a rough. It's not a trill, but it's more harsh and rough. And then we have m, as in mom, n as in nice, m and n, l as in lucky or like, so your basic L, h as in happy, a basic h sound, so m, n, l, h, y as in yes or yippee, w as in wife or walking, and then this is the letter pi. This is the Greek letter pi, which I've used for the sound ng, like ng, ing, ng, which I consider to be its own sound. So bring, walking, that's the letter that you would use. And so each of these letters has one sound. It's not like in English where a C can be a S or a K. This is the K, and this is the S, and you use it every time. Two different letters for two different sounds, definitely. There's no sharing of sounds. And so that's one way that Raptor differs from English. And so yeah, so that's basically the alphabet. Now I will for you write it out. Sorry to do this real time. I probably should have prepared, but I didn't think of what might be appropriate for this. And this is, again, I mean, I've mentioned this before. I like these to be sort of real time and I just try and not have any editing and just have a real realness to them, so that, you know, I mean, I'm not scripted, because why would I script in a long pause like this, you know, where I have to do this in real time. And so anyways, R Q X M N L H Y W and pi. Okay, so for those of you who don't read cursive so well, this is the same alphabet, but in printing. And I don't like printing so much. I find cursive to be more pretty and flowing, and I just prefer it better. So I really, but if I eventually work on a like a computer script so that you can type in Raptor on the computer, then obviously I'll need to have a printed version of it. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I could make it all typable. So we'll see. But anyways, that's sort of the introduction to Raptor. So maybe now I'll start writing a few words up, because that's essentially it. That's the whole lesson right there. Is you have all of these. Maybe if I do this, you have all of these letters, and now you may be wondering why I don't make these three their own letters, instead of modifying other letters but the thing is, it's that they're core sounds. What I'm trying to get down to with Raptor is that I want to break every sound down to its core. And so these elemental sounds, I can't break down any further. But these sounds, ow, oi, I can. I can break them down into I ow, oi, and it's just very, very simple that way. So hopefully now you can read the title cards, or you at least have an introduction to the title cards. I mean, you can pause the video and take screen captures, and maybe I'll do this one more time, just now that you're thinking of it. So if you pause the video, then you can write down these letters and keep them for yourself and start writing them out. And because they're really very, very straightforward. Or maybe I should well, I wanted to write a few words out in Raptor, some simple words, just to get to show you what it looks like when you have it written. So what's like a simple okay, so this is something at school I tend to, there's a chalkboard in the hallway between my classes, and sometimes I write up words or sentences in Raptor, and I leave it there for people to I don't know, just to get people curious, just to get their curiosity, their blood flowing, so they see it and then they wonder what it is. What does it say? And so the most recent one I wrote was I'll tell you in a second, but I'll write it out first. Sorry, just trying to I'm trying to keep you entertained right at the same time, but writing in Raptor takes a bit of getting used to. It takes some like, it's hard to think in English and write in Raptor at the same time, but not really. It's complicated. If you do it yourself, you'll start to get a, like, sometimes for about maybe 2 to 3 minutes, if I switch from after having written in Raptor for like an hour or two, and then I write in English, it's really hard. It's really hard to write in English for like the first 2 to 3 minutes, maybe even about 5 to 10 minutes, because my brain's trying to convert back and forth. An exercise I find really helpful is to write simultaneously one word in Raptor, one word in English, one word in Raptor, one word in English, and alternate back and forth. And that kind of gets the mind used to seeing words in each, and kind of flexes the muscle of going back and forth. And I mean, what's the purpose of doing all this? I don't really know. I'm mostly doing it for creative purposes. I'm curious. And personally, I like writing my notes in Raptor. For one reason, nobody can copy them. It's a talking subject. Like, if anybody ever sees my notes, and they'll go, "Hey, what's this? Why is it written like that?" And it'll be sort of like, "Oh, well, that's my own script. I've made it up myself." And anyways, so let me just finish this. Okay, so this is what Raptor looks like once you get into the habit of writing. And so what this says is, if you can read this, then you must be a genius. So we have our capital I and F, if. So that it's really simple. It's just I, F. You know, in English, you'd put an I, and then you'd have to know that I is an I sound in that word. And so in English, you have to memorize all of these little rules, right? Why isn't it if, right? Why isn't it's an I? Why isn't it? You know, if there was an E at the end, then it would be eif, like strife, you know. And it's those rules that you have to know in English in order to speak and learn English. But in Raptor, you know that this is an I. Every time, 100%, that's an I. And this is a F. So you know that this is if. This is a Y, and this is an U. So this is you. Again, so simple, so straightforward. This is a K. That's an A. This is an N. This is can. If you can. Easy. So simple. This is a R. This is an E. This is a D. Read. So again, so easy. Th, I, s. This. The, e, n. Then. Again, you. M, a, st. Must. B, e, be. A. J, e, n, e, a, s. Genius. 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 Now, sometimes it's these longer words that the spelling can be kind of like, for example, with genius, I went with the spelling of genius. I put an E there. But for sure, you could spell it. This is where the spelling, this is genius. So I used a Y instead of an E. So genius. So I sort of slurred the E into Y. Genius. And that's just personal taste. So when you're spelling in Raptor, it's sort of personal in how you spell it. But when you're reading it, it should be fairly easy to figure out what the word is, because it's you just read it out loud and you can hear what the word is. And so ultimately, I'm gonna eventually work on a spelling dictionary for all English words. I mean, it's just like a hobby of mine. I'm likely gonna do, but so that there's a standard, so that there's a, this is how you spell this word phonetically. And it's basically just comes down to how you, so it's not so up to people's choice, like, so that there's one accepted form of genius. And really why I do that is because if you think about it, these are two different words. And certainly, like in English, they're not really. Like English is so, back and forth that they're not really two different words. But genius and genius, two different words. Two different words, technically. In the sounds that you use to say them, they're two different words. Now, can the average person hear that difference while it's spoken? That's, something that remains to be seen. I'd need to study that. But certainly in Raptor, I might have a purpose. I might one day need there to be a defined difference between genius and a genius. Genius and a genius. I'm just saying. So one other thing that I'm thinking of working on is, let me just write this down. Now I've put it in the wrong, let me write this again. I've put it in the wrong spot. There. So this word is besides. B, E, B, E, S, A, Y, I, D, Z. Besides. And I've put this apostrophe, not apostrophe. Yeah, apostrophe. Here in the word. And I'm playing with adding those to imply that that's where the the separation of the stress. So it's B-sides, and that's how you know that it's not B-sides. B-sides. It's B-sides. So you don't say bis or besides. 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 So if it was besides, you'd put the apostrophe here after the Y, and it'd be besides. Besides. Right? But it's B-sides. B-sides. And so it's just, you know, adding that extra layer makes the readability go way up. Like you're getting more information with each word, because then you do get two different words. I mean, then besides is a different word than besides. I mean, they sound the same. Ear in it'd be completely different. And is good enough to end the lesson here. I think that summarizes Raptor pretty well. Let me just put these up on the screen one last time. I'll bring them real close and real big so that you can see them. And again, this is so yeah, I mean, play around with it, have fun with it. I mean, I certainly am. I really enjoy writing in Raptor. It makes reading interesting again. It's not so plain and boring. I mean, you really have to use your mind to decipher each word. But it gets pretty, like, once your brain starts to memorize certain patterns, it starts to get faster and faster. I mean, I can see the so easily. And what's really interesting is seeing the way words look. I mean, it's the same word. I'm not it's not a new word. They're the same English words. They're just written phonetically with a phonetic alphabet, and it looks so pretty, and I just love it. And I'm grateful that I've been able to share this with you today, and hopefully, hopefully you go on to share it with other people, or to use it in your own personal life as just a hobby thing. If anyone ever ends up watching this in the future, I'll probably do again on my website, if I ever eventually get that up and running. We'll probably have a proper lesson, something that you don't have to sit through this whole 38-minute video. This is just an introduction. This is me just sharing it in a video format, teaching myself mostly how to talk about it. That's really what I wanted to do, is learn how to talk about it. And so let me just say, for the end of this video, goodbye. G-E-D-B-A-Y. Goodbye. Just love it. It's so straightforward, so simple. And I mean, one day I'm looking forward to reading things that other people have written. I would love that. I would love to one day see a book published in Raptor, even if I have to publish it myself, and to be able to read that book, and I'm just seeing right now there's limitless opportunity to use Raptor in any way that a person sees fit. I mean, I do it just as a hobby, and I write in it, and I practice using it. I take notes at school in it, and it's just for fun. I mean, I still write in English. I'm not saying I don't write in English. I still do. I mean, mostly because other people use English, and I have to continue to communicate in English at school, but also because I do love English. I'm not going to ever throw English away. I do still love it. It's great now to have a tool, to have multiple ways of seeing the same language. And that's really what's interesting to me about it, is stretching and strengthening really my brain and my mind, and being able to express myself in more than just one way. And what's great about it right now, I mean, I've obviously shared it with you today, but no one else, I mean, there's no one's watched this so far. There's been 0 viewers. And so, I mean, unless someone comes back to watch it, no one will ever know. And it's just me, and it's just mine. And so it's my secret language that no one can ever read. And you know, it very well may be one day that I write almost exclusively in Raptor for my personal writings and my journal, and then my children one day, where people, you know, if I ever get famous as a computer scientist, people will have to learn to decipher my language, my writing, because I fully intend on coming up with my own words, and you know, and mixing French with Esperanto and English and my own words, and just speaking very fluently in multiple languages at once, and just becoming very fluid, so that language isn't something that's strict and rigid, but is something that is expressive. So depending on how I'm feeling, I use a word from one language because I feel like it, kind of like how we use the word resume, you know, or what's another French word we use in English? Oh, I can't think of any. But, you know, we use other words from other languages because sometimes they're more appropriate than the way we would have to express in English. And so I see that as just an open-ended world or universe of opportunity to come up with my own words to express myself, and to use other languages, words from other languages, to express myself, to the point where maybe, you know, one day, if I have children, I could talk to those children, and hopefully I'll have taught them enough where I could say a word in any language and they'll know what I'm talking about. That's my dream. That I'll know, you know, 20 different languages, and be able to speak in between all of them, and just sort of have a conversation, just going from Mandarin to Japanese to Arabic to you know, Hindi to French to Italian to German to Russian, you know, and just mixing them all together in such a way that sounds really, I don't know if it would be beautiful, but it would sound really interesting. But certainly it's Raptor, where written, I want to close the gap. And what I mean by that is so that when I'm writing, I can write every word phonetically. And so every word will have its phonetic equivalent. And so you won't be switching, like, especially between Arabic and French. You know, Arabic has its own sort of script, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to learn the Arabic way, but perhaps I could learn how to speak Arabic and then learn how to write Arabic in Raptor, and I'd still be able to express myself in Arabic that way, written, you know. And anyway, so that's sort of everything there is. So back to this. This says goodbye. This is the end of the video. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers.